Hopefully it's not some cyber attack.
Well, I think he said he was having problems logging into Discord.
Yeah.
That's probably just a Discord problem. Maybe
Well,
we
all
have
the
2
other
weeks.
all the other ones, I mean, cloud stuff, I guess it is.
Yeah, I think GCP is down or something.
Oh, it's GCP?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of services that are down right now because of GCP.
Yeah, hopefully it's something not related to geopolitics.
No, I think it's just it's a server error or a service error issue with a few
Okay,
companies. It looks like. Seems it's resolving itself now. So
Nice. So are we able to broadcast live, easy?
yep, we're already set up. We're good.
Perfect. Are you're leading today, right?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, BZ, are you hearing any sound through this?
Yep. You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I can hear everybody.
Good to go. And just to double confirm, Ari, are you leading today's agenda? AJ?
I heard him earlier. He said hello.
Yeah, my understanding was he was going to lead today's agenda. Ari, you're on mute, by the way. Ari, come in. Over.
Hmm.
AJ, are you
I'm
there?
going to have to drop and maybe pick up on the phone here.
We hear you now, man.
Yeah, we hear you great.
He's getting on his phone. Yay, Discord.
Yeah, we definitely got to discuss the old Discord migration here.
Lee and I are going to work on it this week. Yeah.
Good.
All right, stream is going to get started here in a little bit. Folks, thanks for tuning in. They're trying to get some mics and things set up.
Are you, how's your technical setup going? And are you going to walk us through the agenda and everything today?
Yeah, we're gonna try here.
Cool. Yeah, we can all hear you.
Yeah, it's cooperating, not so much. So, okay. So, hello everyone. Welcome to our 16th now reoccurring platform and Treasury Council meeting, where we continue our journey on transparent governance and community engagement for the Telcoin ecosystem. Today's agenda encompasses several vital updates on Telcoin governance initiatives, recent platform developments, and a preview of upcoming progress on TIP and TEL-IP proposals that will shape our future. I'll post the agenda in the chat now. Okay. The regular meeting serves as a heartbeat of our governance system, fulfilling multiple essential functions, creating a transparent window into our council. Sorry, I think it kicked me off there. Where did I leave off at?
Council. We could hear you.
Okay. So we're going to create a transparent window into council operations for our community, providing structured forums for discussing and refining proposals, offering proposers a platform to present their ideas directly to council members, enabling community members to witness, discuss, and help shape these proposals, delivering consistent platform updates and keep everyone informed, maintaining open lines of communication between council members, and facilitating direct community engagement through our interactive Q&A sessions. Our governance foundation, we'd like to take a moment to reaffirm that the platform and treasury councils represent the global governance layers for both the Telcoin platform and association. Working in concert, these councils oversee platform-wide systems, shape association social policies, and steward the Tel Treasury with care and foresight. The Telcoin platform governance system, self-organized and determined by the four minor groups and their elected councils within the association, focuses on two primary duties. The Telcoin platform the provisioning, planning, and financing platform infrastructure, construction and maintenance, providing information and delivering other collective goods essential to our ecosystem's health. TEL allocation, regulating the TEL sustainability within the platform for the four minor groups to harvest based on their production according to rules established by their respective councils. Our council commitments. As the elected representatives, we embrace several key responsibilities. Thoughtfully reviewing and voting on snapshot proposals, maintaining consistent attendance at council meetings, providing transparent regular updates to the community, vigilantly monitoring platform systems, upholding and enforcing our operational framework. Just to give a recap here of the last meeting, we had some really good updates from Grant on the TAN network and the auditing process that occurred. Telex, we discussed having an upcoming refresh of the site and release of code as open source. And then we had, of course, our TIP for the media and marketing campaign, which we met with Storm Partners and EAK. So now I'd like to hand it over to Grant to give us a little update on the Telcoin network and how the audits are going along.
Thanks, Ari. The first Telcoin Network Cantina audit report has been made publicly available on Cantina's website, and the link is also shared on the TauX account yesterday, but I'm going to go ahead and share it in the chat as well. This was basically the first step in auditing the Telcoin Network contracts. All in all, it was very successful. We had some good findings. We worked well with the auditors, and there was a lot of back and forth that got us prepared and kind of geared up for this next round of audits. So the next audits are going to put the entire code base in scope. which is going to be all the Rust code for the Telcoin network protocol, as well as the smart contracts. We're going to have a 4-week competition with an open pot, which just means that auditors are even more incentivized to participate, and to participate, they're kind of guaranteed like to have a portion of the payouts if they find something. And in parallel to that 4-week competition, we're also going to have a 4-week private audit to focus again on the entire code base, but most specifically on the Rust code, which again has not had an audit yet. So for the smart contracts, this will kind of be how they're used on Telcoin network, and sort of a different perspective on that security implications there. So we're really excited to be working with Spirit again on this one, and this will be again with a private auditor and with an open competition. So the prize pool is in total 110,000 US dollars, and that's really to incentivize all the top talent globally. For some sort of benchmark, I think with the Ethereum Petra upgrade, they had a $2 million or a $500,000 pot for any sort of rewards, that sort of thing. So these are definitely, that number was not just made up; it was based on the market and average, and in partnership with guidance from the Spearbit auditor representative that we're working with. So that competition page is live, and I will share that link as well in the chat. So what I'm asking the community to do is to just help us get the word out there for any security researchers, and any sort of code-minded people who are interested in like helping us just get this code base ready for mainnet. The success of the competition depends highly on all the eyes that we can get on it and looking at the code. So as much as we can share, that would be excellent and greatly appreciated. So other than that, I wanted to take a moment because the TN contract security audit is complete now, and we have released that report. I'll hand it over to Marcus to kind of provide a brief summary today of some of those findings of high picture. Marcus, you want to share?
Yeah, so we completed the system contracts audit. Like Grant said, that was with the Spearbit Cantina on their platform. Actually, one of the auditors that we were working with goes by Phase, and he's the lead security researcher that I worked with for the audit of the 10IP1 like history storage contract. So got to work with some familiar faces and sort of, get them rolling on some of our other products. Obviously, the Telcoin network is the main project that we're working on. And so that audit looked at 2 contracts in particular, one which is the consensus registry, which sort of manages state for the consensus layer so that it can be shared across the network for each node on the execution side. And the interchain tel contract, which is sort of the ERC representation, I guess would be the word, of tel on Telcoin network outside of or I guess one layer above the native Telcoin token. So that's the contract that upgrades the tel token with interchain functionality and integrates it with Axelar. So yeah, the findings were solid. We feel really good about the implementations now that we've implemented those, and we're making some adjustments as we move into the full protocol audit, which is slated to start very soon.
Okay, excellent. I really thought that you did a bang up job on getting that turned around pretty quick. So I appreciate that. Let's see, do we have any questions in the chat for that? Oh, I think we're clear. So now we're moving on to today's primary item, which is to discuss the various marketing agencies and determine which to move forward with. So over the last few weeks, we've heard from 3 qualified marketing agencies and their suggestions for campaigns designed to increase visibility, grow participation in the Telcoin ecosystem, and amplify engagement across the Telcoin platform and socials. The materials provided by each agency, they were circulated, and it would be great to come out of today's meeting with a clear route forward regarding which agency to select and how much budget is required from the Treasury. We'll be calling on council members and community to come up and share their thoughts in just a second, but just to run through the next steps is laid out by the TAL IP process. A platform council, TAL member, or other designated author on the platform council snapshot page decides to submit the proposal to the platform council snapshot for voting. The platform council must vote with 6 of 8 approval within 120 hours. So that's 5 days from platform council snapshot proposal submission, or else the proposal will automatically not pass. Treasury Council proposal after the TAL IP has been affirmed by the Platform Council. The proposal author may submit the TAL IP to the Treasury Council for snapshot for voting. The Treasury Council must vote with a 4 of 4 approval within 120 hours, 5 days from Treasury Council snapshot proposal submission, or else the proposal will also not pass. Then the Compliance Council will have a 72-hour window in which to veto the proposal. This vote is a single choice vote, and the agency with the most votes wins the contract. This means that we could have a fully approved and funded media and marketing campaign in a minimum of approximately 2 weeks. And I believe the last meeting we had designated next Monday, I think, is when we were talking about opening that. So without further ado, you can please come up and share your thoughts. If you're in the audience, please ask to speak on stage and we will invite you up. We'd love to hear everyone's input on this. So would anybody on the council like to give their 2 cents?
I can jump in here. I first and foremost thank you to all 3 of the agencies for coming in and presenting their proposals. They're all distinct, and I think at different phases of the business, I could see us working with each and every one of them. But of course, today's goal is to determine which we'll use on this particular proposal. From my perspective, I really when I looked at the 2 that stuck out to me the most were Scribe and Storm, because they felt very uniquely, because Telcoin, what we're doing here, creating a blockchain network standard around telecoms, is very it's its own thing. It's discontinuous. It's completely unique in the world, and I think understanding the uniqueness of this business, the complexity of it, the various segments that we're targeting with our marketing, and why and how. I think that from my view, I felt that Scribe had a really, really solid handle on that, and that Storm did as well. And personally, I felt as though the Scribe one spoke to me from the perspective of brand, bottom up brand reconstruction. They provided this sort of before and after, where there's the current sort of basket of Telcoin brands, and then next to that and the after was like Apple's sort of branding. And as we all know from the presentation that Scribe gave, I suppose Apple's goodwill brand value alone is something like $500 billion. And so, from that vantage point of building this sort of comprehensive ground up approach, I really like what they're doing there. And then on Storm's side, I really liked how they positioned themselves as marketing and growth as a key area, and sort of leveraging cyber agents to accomplish that. I see a sort of both of the value proposition for both of them from a marketing perspective really solid. But what I was struck by with Storm was sort of their comprehensive nature of how they can service the Telcoin Association, both from a growth marketing and brand perspective, but also on the operational side, where they have this sort of theme across virtually, because for us, as Tim has put it in the past on these meetings, we're the brains making decisions as part of this association, and then we have the TAO that goes out and contracts on behalf of the decisions that we made here with agencies who ultimately put those things into place. And so the first thing I'll say is I think both of those agencies are really solid, and that perhaps there's a fit for the Storm side, from my vantage point, for a bit beyond that. They're also Swiss domiciled, which is of course we're domiciled as well, and they have operational and strategy areas that I think are really compelling. But from my personal perspective on this proposal, I think that Scribe's sort of bottom up comprehensive approach is really compelling to me. So that's my thoughts. Thanks for hearing me out.
Yeah, I would kind of second those exact thoughts. I really thought that Scribe had kind of a better idea of how to transform kind of like these disparate entities that we have right now and kind of make a cohesive brand to that. And I think that's why I kind of gravitated to them a little bit more than the other two. But I did think that Storm was also fully capable of doing it too. The only outlier I had was EAK, but I thought definitely Storm and Scribe were up there.
Leo, I invite you up to the stage to speak. Please share your thoughts.
Oh, I was also keen on Scribe, and I thought the presentations were great. My one concern was actually about that kind of the branding and alignment, and I actually shouldn't be doing that with Telcoin in a way, because we are separate entities and we want to maintain that. I kind of thought that seemed actually incompatible with how we're set up, but I'd love to be told otherwise, kind of thing.
I kind of had a similar thought to that, where we are distinct entities. So on the one hand, you have Scribe, who's already familiar with other projects in this in the platform. So it kind of lends to that continued momentum in other areas, like the association already having that background and that knowledge, and maybe being able to sort of bridge that and make it more cohesive for the platform. But on the same side, having that second set of eyes might really benefit on the platform too, where it's like, we almost have, a second agency working on the platform, on projects in the platform as well. So, just kind of that diversity of perspective and just marketing in general. So I'm so far, shared sentiment about I think the top two contenders for me are Storm and Scribe as well. Derek asked to speak. I've invited you up. You have the floor.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. Just a few overarching thoughts. Really, it's a lot of information to digest, as I've realized over looking through the videos and then looking through the presentations and everything else. So just breaking down some of my notes just for overall discussion. I felt that Scribe had their strengths were, it's a narrative-led, strategically aligned approach. Storm was kind of activation heavy, which was and very focused on execution. EAK had some high energy, but the precision was kind of all over the place. It's kind of what I wrote down. Some strengths for Scribe. Obviously they've had a lot of experience with some good crypto projects. Their kind of ground up approach from developing branding and a branding story as a basis for organic growth and marketing was impressive. I thought out of all of the graphics designs and that type of element, it showed the best out of everybody. Some of the weaknesses I had for Scribe were they really may need some more tactical execution guidance when it comes to a campaign rollout, especially as it gets further along. But another one I had was that they're very crypto native and bridging to mainstream and other telecom narratives may be a struggle for them, potentially, maybe an opportunity. And they're less focused on grassroots. I don't think this is necessarily a weakness per se, but less focused on short-term KPIs and really more focused on building a brand identity, which in my opinion is probably the most important thing to start with for where the project is. I think Leo brought up a really good point though, that really discerning the difference between holdings and Telcoin and not straying from that is important. For Storm, I'll just list Storm and Scribe as those were my top two as well. Storm had a very agile and aggressive and hands-on approach, fast-moving activation for energy and user acquisition, effective at driving short-term engagement and visibility through their activation events. Weaknesses I had: strategic brand positioning was a weakness, and long-term storytelling. There's lots of bloat in some of their stuff without a clear driving thesis at times, and then there's risks potentially prioritizing mass growth versus brand coherence. So just some thoughts for everybody to think about as we're going through this.
Do you think that there's a way that we can, structure that to ensure that the marketing companies get that we're trying to, hype basically the association as a whole and not exactly Telcoin Holdings?
Personally, I think the challenge becomes when you have the same, basically the same logo and the same. If you think about it from an outsider's perspective, and this is one thing I was thinking about, how does an outsider discern the difference between Telcoin versus Telcoin Association, and being able to do so within 30 seconds of listening or reading something? And that's really the question I think that we need to answer through this process.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Did we think that when just because we're comparing apples to apples here, did we think that that concern related to distinguishing the boundaries between the two was addressed properly in Storms, or do you think it's kind of across the board because the complexity that they're being introduced to and that we're trying to get them to harness? And I think no matter which way we slice it, we'll be able to work with this group closely to ensure that they understand exactly the differences and to harness those. But did you feel like Storm was able to, relative to Scribe, sort of nail that point about the association, or was it kind of shared?
I think
Go ahead.
ironically,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think ironically they've fallen victim to what the point BZ just made, which I think was a great one, that people can't tell the difference within the first 30 seconds, and Scribe's approach that they didn't see the difference, and it's not necessary. It's kind of a bad thing for the branding, but in terms of comparing them to Storm, they're a lot of their like branding approach was centered around putting us all under one roof, which kind of feels a bit nullified. Whereas Storm didn't kind of come in with that point quite heavily, I feel. So whether Storm thought it or not, I don't know, but they didn't seem to kind of try and hit home with that aspect. But yeah, BZ, what were you going to say?
I was going to respond similar to what you had said. I think one of the biggest challenges is when you talk about brand identity is that we really have to look at with how can you if somebody doesn't know and hasn't been exposed to Telcoin, how is the value proposition and the hook, whether that's emotional or whatever else, given to them, and where they're able to make that discernment within the first minute, let's say, of being exposed to Telcoin. And I think that is part of the problem or opportunity, I guess you would say, with how each company would approach this. And I think you make a really good point with the overarching focus of marketing collateral and under one roof with Scribe, which I do believe, from my perspective, is something that is desperately needed. More marketing collateral and more videos and things of that nature. But also it's very important to remember that this marketing proposal is based on the association and not the overall Telcoin. So I think that's a very good point. I think Hamilton also brought up that if you really dig and look at the cost comparison and add everything up that Scribe mentioned, it is a vastly larger price tag. So that's something to consider. I know that it's not, hey, this is probably here's everything we can do, not here's what we're recommending, but something to also consider.
I'd also just like to point out that I feel like bringing us and Telcoin under one umbrella would be unique, but I think it's like probably a bit of a compliance issue and kind of fairness on other application developers that, Telcoin would essentially be getting special treatment because they share the same name. So those seem like the underlying flaws with the kind of umbrella style brand identity and everything. The other thing I wanted to ask or like consider was if we scrapped that brand idea, back to BZ's point and some others about the cost of stuff, can we save that capital, deploy that elsewhere within kind of Scribe's offering, for example?
Ty, I know that you would raise your hand to speak if you want to share your thoughts. You have the floor.
Thanks. Hi, guys. Yeah, I know, I'll be the first to admit, I know very little about marketing, so I'm not going to comment on brand awareness or anything like that. But I do know a lot about vendor management. And I think a point to consider is how well do we think the association can work with the company involved, and how is that relationship going to be managed as the campaign progresses? I think having a check-in every 2 weeks is not enough when you've got a lot happening and a big budget to spend. Things can go off the rails pretty quickly, and then it takes time to bring them back on track. So something that needs to be thought about is, how is the relationship with the company going to be managed? Who will do that? Is there going to be a subcommittee of the Platform and Treasury Council tasked with almost day-to-day management of the client-vendor relationship? That's the point I would like to make on this one. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that's a good point, and great question. So, but personally, I would, work with them, and I'm sure others in here as well, to sort of enable them to, ask a set of questions as well as us give them directives on what we want I think that the reporting every 2 weeks part is sort of like, here's what happened the last 2 weeks in the status overview. But we want to, I think, we should kind of assign people within the platform and Treasury Council to work with this group, and I put my name in the hat for that, along with anyone else that wants to join. And we'll stay on a sort of whoever we determine with a channel with them to address their areas of concern and help guide them.
Another thing that I just kind of, coming up with reviewing the Storm Partners proposal and the notion, the KPIs that they're focused on is, more than at least 25 tier 1 media articles. But then there's, these like metrics, which I think are great for, having objective qualifying, success markers. But are these things, if these are the KPIs that they're focused on, is like 35% increase in TEL for the TELX contracts, a 50% increase in snapshot voter turnout, 40% TEL staked. I assume that's a like application layer, and then another 30% LTEL delegated, and over 25, at least 25 app developers onboarded. So, I mean, are those? I'm not. Whereas the Scribe kind of projection and is much more just sort of like, it doesn't have objective markers, but it's much more just kind of focused on the branding, the awareness, the name recognition, getting that out there. Because there is a big part about distinguishing between certainly Telcoin, the company. There's also Telcoin, the token. There's Telcoin on Telcoin network. There's Telcoin associations. So there's a lot of moving parts. I don't think it's to the point of like that. A company named Telcoin is going to have more or benefit from any sort of marketing for the association. I think that's somewhat inevitable, regardless of like who's doing it, just by the nature of the name itself. But I think that the KPIs in general is just like, I'm not quite sure that we, like, for instance, the snapshot voter turnout when we have those large governance votes. Like, I mean, that would be great, but those are kind of few and far between. And then the TEL staked and I think as we get more app developers onboarded, that should be a reasonable KPI in general. But
I see what you're saying. Like when I look at the Storm proposal, I don't see this segmentation that I see of the target markets like I do with the Scribe one. I don't see them saying we're going to focus on XYZ MNOs. We're going to focus on stakers. We're going to focus on GSMA application developers and mobile operators. All in a distinct sort of way. Which I see that in Scribes. I also just like going through it again, see the same sort of error that we mentioned earlier related to the overlap of the two different brands within the larger brand strategy. I see that as just a consistency across both. And I think if I'm looking from their perspective on that, maybe there is some sort of confusion about the two, but B, they may just want to be leveraging as much as they can to try and create the most powerful possible message for everyone, and that can harness all of the different component parts across the ecosystem to have just a really cohesive identity and strategy, but that is, in terms of its focus and a day-to-day perspective, being on the associations. I don't like to see it as, I think what they're trying to say is like Telcoin, you should kind of you want to drive home like sort of an emotional response to the Telcoin brand itself and harness as much components as possible to make that happen. So I'm not like I don't have too much concerns, especially given that we would be working actively with them on the boundary distinctions between the two. I'd be very curious what their thoughts are on these questions as well. So yeah, that's just some additional few cents I wanted to add.
One last thought, because we are like, when you boil it down to from just something we haven't discussed is the cost of it. So looking at the pitch on Notion, we're looking at 160K is the budget breakdown for 1 year with the KPI expansions. And that's sort of the categories being strategy and research, brand strategy, growth and marketing, content production, community engagement, and reporting and analytics. And the Scribe breakdown, you have the 100K upfront one-time fee, and then use for the branding and strategy. And then you have a couple different breakdowns where the social media and content program for Telcoin Association, the X handle, that would be a 25K monthly retainer. Is that something that like would we take that option and do that as well? And then also the public relations, which I think we would definitely need, which would be 20K a month. So, is it going to like, are we considering, and then the paid programming is to be determined on the program specifics. So I guess my question to the council too is like, would we be taking advantage of all of these services, or would there be selection where we have the 100K for branding and strategy, and then we're paying 20K the month for public relations after that? Or would we have the combined, both services with the 45K plus the additional paid programming? Just not sure I need an answer right now, but there's something to think about.
Thanks. One other thought also, since it's been brought up a few times, there was one question I saw that I thought was important. I know Scribe has done work for Telcoin Holdings before. I think people are curious of what that was previously, just so we can get a little comparison, and if anybody knows. And then the second was, I think one important thing to remember is we're talking a lot about brand identity versus drivable KPIs, right? Brand identity, is that really something that Telcoin Association should be focused on implementing or supporting? So I think that's important to think about. When I say brand identity, I'm talking about the overall project, branding of the mission statement, branding of all those things, creating content that's shareable via social media that retail people will share and things of that nature. So as somebody that's done a lot of work with marketing firms, one thing that we have a multifaceted challenge here is that we are not just marketing the Telcoin project, and I think it's really easy to get lost in that. Because if we're focusing on creating content for the Telcoin project, is that really going to fit the needs of the KPIs and what we're trying to do with the association? And ideally, obviously, Telcoin Holdings would be driving that brand identity, and we're piggybacking off of that to talk about how the Telcoin Association supports the brand identity and using a marketing firm that has a hard and fast activation with that. So I think just something to think about.
Definitely, and just to provide a little bit of context to it, see in the chat, maybe there's like, there is a lot of kind of, I've seen a lot of confusion about the separation and maybe what that is. So just to kind of speak to that real briefly, the Telcoin Holdings founded the association, and the association as a decentralized autonomous governance system is responsible for Telcoin network, for Telcoin the asset, for TelX, and for the TAN, which is the Telcoin application network for application developers. So Telcoin Holdings itself, they have two products right now. They have the mobile application, and they belong to the association in the sense that they're the first TAN developer. But they also have Telcoin Bank, right? And those are both their proprietary focus as a company. So I see this opportunity for my interest in hiring a marketing company. I want us to get the word out there for what is Telcoin? What is Telcoin Network? Why do people want to build on Telcoin Network? And why is it the best EVM chain that's going to launch here very soon? What is the token all about, right? And how can users join the platform and benefit, right? They have Telex, they have the decentralization layer, and they have the governance system. If they have an application idea, they can participate in that too, and through staking, bring rewards to their users. So I think that's really the biggest goal for this sort of marketing is like, bringing users into the platform to use Telex, to use Telcoin Network, to use Tel.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that, Grant. I mean, one of my primary focuses is how to get, developers jazzed about, working with the network, on the network, building applications on the network, to kind of drive, the usage of Tell the token as gas, but it's really, that will come if we, get people working on the network. That's why that's kind of my focus point. So do we have anybody else that would like to come up and make any additional points? I see people typing in the chat. I think we're kind of all on the same page where it's between Storm and Scribe. I think it's just a matter of what we would prefer to focus on, and possibly overall cost is what I'm gleaning from the chat discussion here.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be the tough part, right? Is you're balancing value for outcome too. So that's that's the name of the game always. So, but I think they're both great options. I'm looking forward to work with really either one. But yeah, I think yeah, just it's going to be a tough decision. So.
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll have to, definitely, I see what, Hamilton is, talking about in terms of price, and I've dealt, with a lot of companies with retainers and stuff before, and sort of that ongoing piece, and we do have some other competing, things. One being, Turtle's stuff with listings and stuff. So we'll have to keep that in consideration too.
If we were to put this to a vote on Monday, do we think that we'd come up with some sort of unanimity here or close to it? And that is the first question, and then the second question is, if not, what questions do we need to have the agencies answer, and should we provide them with that list in advance of making a vote for them to then provide us with responses? Because I think they've been able to present and share their proposals with us, and then now we've discussed a variety of areas, concerns, thoughts that I'm just curious if we think we want to shoot those questions over to them and before we make it to a vote. So yeah, thoughts, everyone.
I mean, maybe, Leo mentioned could, scribe without trying to combine all the brands, but would they even be interested in that? I mean, their whole thing is brand, brand, brand. And if you went to them and said, no, the association's different, they might not even be interested in that or, be the right fit. I don't know. And are
Yeah, I mean,
we
we
so
worked with them in a PR capacity at Telcoin Holdings, as it relates to the bank and the launch of that, and developing thought leadership in the space, and messaging and everything, and so it's been, I just wanted to just interject and say it's been great working with them on that, but it is a little bit different scope wise, and I just think they, as solutions providers, agencies, I think they probably would want to lean towards what we want to do, and then work with us to implement that, and that both agencies are really, in a sense, trying to do their best guesswork here, whereas we perhaps could help them in a sense get to where they want to be. So maybe it needs more time. I don't know.
I'm prepared to make a vote on Monday. I think, after this conversation, just reflecting, we could drag it out. Like I said, so, there's a lot of pros, and they're both great options. So, at some point, yeah, I'm in favor of maintaining the original timeline of Monday. I think that's enough time for me to make a decision, personally.
yeah, I mean, I concur. Monday really means all week.
Yeah.
So we've got next week to hash it out.
Yeah, I think I concur with that.
Then I concur as well.
Okay, so I think we're set for vote to start on Monday. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next item, which is company proposals. But I think that he's a little under the weather, so he is currently working, on the final stages of stuff, and he actually hinted in the chat of maybe dropping an additional one in the next day or so. So that should be pretty exciting. And then I think everybody's just discussing, the current options in there amongst themselves. So we'll have some future meetings. We'll go and go over those ones and get a consensus on what we're going to do with that. So next up, we have the TIP for enhanced management of the Telcoin Tau X account. And so Grant is going to speak on that.
Alrighty, let's do it. So I'd like for the council to consider moving forward with this TIP to just enhance the management of the Telcoin Tau X account. One of our strengths in this council is just we wear a lot of different hats, and the Tau there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and one of the areas where we can always improve is in marketing and being communication through our official X account. So when this proposal came through, I thought it was a great idea. Derek, aka BZ, aka Brozy, has He's was recently elected to TAN council member. He's expressed interest in helping the association's media presence on X. He's also kind of set up a lot of the infrastructure for streaming. I think that he's demonstrated that he's capable, and he's obviously interested. So with that, looking into it a little bit further, there is a feature on X that allows us to have a delegation to other accounts that is basically with this exact solution in mind. So we can securely manage who's contributing to the account and assign and remove roles without having to share passwords. So I would like to put this up on Snapshot so that we can delegate at least to Derek in the short term as we get these other marketing firms and branding things out. I think some of the details to kind of to keep in mind would be we're delegating to a separate account so that the association still maintains control and ownership of the X account. Also, I think that it'd be appropriate to have some sort of means where we are still sharing content before it is post, so that we just have a few set of eyes on there. Currently, there's like we have like some brief comms stuff, but I think that for the councils, it would make sense to maybe have another Discord channel so that we have that we can share drafts of posts content through our Google Drive, and one thing is kind of the balance between too many cooks in the kitchen, and also just having more presence on X. So I think that this would be an initial step in the right direction, having that delegated and having Derek's help creating some of the content for this. I think Coops and Squirtel have also done a great job, and several of the council members, and the other councils too, for TAN and Telex as well. So anyway, that is my proposal. So yes, any thoughts?
I don't know why you don't have it posted already.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I am all for Derek doing that.
Great. Derek, I see you're up. Yeah, you want to?
Yeah. So just a few thoughts. Overarching. I've spent enough time doing this type of management in the restaurant and hospitality world from both a macro level with multiple different locations reporting into one aggregator that I managed, and then also doing individual level. So what I can say is I think there's I think that there's been a lot of really good things done. I think there's an opportunity and a very, very important need. Time is of the essence right now with everything coming down the pipeline in the next 2 to 3 months, that starting to increase the engagement of the X account will pay dividends with marketing and everything else coming out. And I think just alone hosting the events or these meetings through the Periscope or the live on the X account for the council, you'll be very surprised at how much and how quickly we'll start getting more followers and more growth from that. I'm excited to try and assist in managing that process and creating some natural and compounding excitement in the community, and then also assisting with providing and making sure that we're sticking to the mission statement and doing everything the correct way, so that we can maintain that level of respect for doing things the right way that the project already has. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited, and obviously we'll be more than willing to take suggestions and things. Bear with me while we work on some other things like the platform switch for these meetings and some optimization, but more to come. So thank you.
I think it's pretty positive. So does anybody have any objections with Grant putting that up on Snapshot?
No, I think we should move forward immediately. BZ doing a great job getting the message out and making this happen, and we're really, really stoked to have you as a member of the community and council member on this. So just make sure that you're getting, because you're doing an operational day-to-day task here. Make sure that you're being compensated for that and contracting with the association, as it is separate from your council duties that you'd be doing. So.
Okay. Good deal. So, Grant, when should we dovetail that with the other one, or do we have to vote on it? Just say
I can get this one up.
Okay.
Yeah, we could do that. I'll get this one up ASAP.
Cool. Okay. This is a good discussion today. I like this. So the next one is also about BZs. So meeting host transition platform. So BZ has continued researching changing our platform for these council calls. BZ, could you give us a rundown of what you found and what you think would be the best option and why?
I should have just stayed up here. Sorry about that. I'm making
Yeah,
Grant do a lot of
no.
work. So what this really comes down to, we all know, I have approached this from more of a scaling perspective rather than the current issues we're experiencing. Okay, so we all know that we've had some audio issues. I had tried to do some troubleshooting around that and trying to figure out what we could do to make things better. And unfortunately, it's just a proponent of this type of meeting environment being a secondary feature of Discord from its inception, and it's just not built to do the things that we're really looking to do. But really projecting out the project and the the growth, the goal of the growth of the community. Instead of having 25, 26 people, we could have thousands, watching this, which will require a certain level of moderation first and foremost, which is where I approached my proposal from originally, and then also making sure that there's clear, concise, and professional information being shared. Nobody likes being in a meeting where somebody shows up late or you can't hear them on the phone or whatever else. And it's a thorn in my side and everybody else's when technology is the result of that. So really what I've focused on looking at was what are some platforms that we could look at doing to transition the council themselves to be presenting on. And there's a few nuances that we'll need to discuss just because that would not enable easy access for people to come up on stage and talk. And there's a reason I say that. I've looked into the X platform. Unfortunately, the only way to really accomplish what we had wanted to do with the hosting it directly on the Tao X platform and having that as a stage, we would not be able to have PCs, anybody on a computer, be able to join the stage at all. And to me, that's kind of a deal breaker because that's a lot of how, for me, if I'm on my handling the stream, I have to be on the PC. I don't want to be on my phone and the PC. Secondarily, I wanted to look at a platform that gave the option for an actual mobile call-in, where you could call into a phone number, which helps helps give a platform for people to engage into the council meetings, and two, if somebody doesn't have internet, they can call in and listen. With that in mind, the proposed structure would be that the council that is presenting would be on either Zoom or WebEx are the two that I have the best integration for sharing that stream across multiple platforms. So the council would be on Zoom or WebEx, and just the council with me as a moderator or whoever, if I can't make it as a moderator. The moderator would be responsible for collecting chats from the different areas and the different the program I use is called Restream, and it aggregates all the chats from X, from YouTube, from everywhere onto one initial chat panel, and that's viewable and can be viewable to the council and everybody else. So essentially the moderator's job is to relay any questions to the council to be answered. It gives a very clean and professional platform for that won't have streaming issues, and we can then project this out to a much broader audience rather than having people, in the channel here and then also elsewhere. My initial proposal was focused on keeping that link to the Zoom meeting private, so that we can just make more of a controlled environment as we expect this to continue to grow. We obviously can give that link to anybody we want to present. There will be no issues with video or audio dropouts based on, again, everybody's internet or being on the phone. And I think it just overall helps polish the look and the feel of these council meetings on a go-forward basis.
To add into that too, I've also looked into Google and Google Meet. They have a live stream service and stuff, and I personally looking at it into it deeper. I don't think it's a good solution. So yeah, moving forward, I think it's a good idea. The Zoom idea sounds promising.
I looked into Google Meets also. The biggest issue with Google Meets is there's no integration with YouTube, so you can't stream live onto a YouTube platform, and that's the reason I X'd it out. I want something that is going to make our jobs easier to share this information rather than having to right now, one of us is recording this meeting. we go and edit it, and then we have to re-upload it to YouTube. If we do this the right way, all this is done automatically, and it saves everyone some time and to focus on what's important, which is the project.
Well, I think it's a great idea. I'm in favor of moving that forward as well. Anyone object to TIP for meeting host transition platform going on to Snapshot? Do we need more time? Can I put that up today as well?
No, no objection from me.
Great.
None for me either. If anyone has any, do speak up so that we don't bring this proposal and then have it not work out.
All right. Well, great work again, Derek. I really appreciate you looking into all this and having a solution, because I think having the meetings recorded at a high quality is really important. So thank you for looking into that and bringing this forward.
Absolutely. I think it'll just compound with what we're doing with marketing, and the great part and why I'm so passionate about having a marketing company that can give me more awesome stuff to share on these things, because I usually do like a scroll of videos before the stream starts of like commercials, just as like a little hype video. That's all beneficial. So this is all a compounding factor, I think, and that's what's important. So thanks for everybody's support.
Very good. Okay, so our next up on the agenda is the Tel IP for in-flight Wi-Fi sponsorship. So we have like Internet Money 509. If you want to step up and talk about your proposal. We know if he is on the meeting. I think Liberty Lad is letting us know here.
While Liberty Lad's typing, I'll just give a quick highlight. It's oh, okay. So I don't think that he'll be in attendance today. So I've shared the link in the chat, so we can put this on the agenda for next meeting, as considering the time is already already at an hour for this meeting. So I'm okay moving this to next time, personally.
Yeah, that's fine. That seems prudent. So, okay, so now we're at this spot where we do open Q&A. So we're going to open up the floor for any questions that you would have. Just use the raise hand feature and we will get to you. I'm checking the chat here too to see if we've got. So Blue Lights, of course, is asking Grant if we're still on track for the 1st of July MNO testnet.
Yeah. So so with the audits starting on this upcoming Tuesday, that'll be the 17th. of June. It's going to be a 4-week cycle. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're looking, and then there'll be some time for back and forth. We'll have 12 business days to address security concerns, etc. So we won't be done with the audits until mid-July, but that won't stop us from running an initial testnet, especially with MNOs as we start to onboard them. Publicly, I don't think that we'll have an official testnet launched until after the audit is fully complete. And that's just more or less logistics of not having to tear stuff up or relaunch it if we have any sort of database concerns, etc. But as far as MNOs, we are going to be working with them in July. July 1st is our target to start spinning up these nodes, start ironing out the wrinkles in preparation for mainnet. So yes, I will say still on track for 1st of July. In the meantime, we do have a DevNet that developers are more than welcome to use. It's currently we're relaunching it in preparation for the upcoming competition. So that's something that we're going to have up and running later this week. I'm planning to do that on Friday or Saturday. So yeah, as far as testing needs, please go to the DevNet. And as far as the public testnet, the public testnet won't be July 1st, but we will be working with MNOs starting in July for those to get those nodes up and running, etc.
Very good. It seems like everyone wants to know numbers on the MNOs, but I think you're going to be mum on that for now. Yeah. So should the testnet be available to actually work on around that time too, or you want everybody to stay clear of it while the testers are in there testing?
No, that'd be great. The testnet really is for the community and for us to kind of to simulate the mainnet as realistically as possible. So right now, the Deary testnet, that is just kind of that's something that the association is managing through a cloud provider. And the idea for the testnet launching is going to be to have these servers actually in the mobile network operator databases. So we're currently evaluating. Working out the logistics. We've specified the hardware that the initial partners that we're launching with are working to procure that. We're also just finalizing the agreements for minimum bandwidth and as far as the actual MOUs and all the just the legal side of it. There's a lot of that going on right now, but I would say that I'm feeling really we've exceeded my expectations for where I think we're going to be when we launch. So I'm feeling really excited. It's kind of taking a lot of that pressure off of the business side of things. So let us focus just on the technical side and just building the protocol as strong as we can.
That's good. That's a good way to answer it. So, okay. Any other questions other than how many and when mainnet?
I apologize. Would you ask that again, Ari?
No, I'm just asking if anyone has any other questions on here other than when is mainnet and how many how many MNOs are joining. That seems to be the consensus. They're trying to get you to divulge the secrets here.
I can't wait to share. It's coming soon. So.
I think they're asking about maybe the proposals from Turtel and specifically proposal 2, but I think that's in discussion and everything, so it'll be soon. Okay, I think if we don't have any other serious questions here, before we close, we'll confirm our upcoming meeting schedule. Next meetings will be June the 26th, July the 10th, and July the 24th. Calendar invites will be sent to council members. Remember, these meetings are crucial for maintaining transparency and communication with our community. Any final questions before we sign off?
I would just say let's try and vote on the marketing proposal. Like once we submit it on Monday, let's just as a council try and put our votes in, earlier in the week so that we can kind of just gather where people are going towards to try and reach unanimous consent, which I think is going to be difficult in the multiple choice here with three really solid agencies. But yeah, just I'll vote as soon as it comes out so people know where I stand. And I think it's just our whole thing here is built on trying to establish unanimous consent to the extent that we can. And so let's try and do that on these votes. But yeah, looking forward to next week's set of exciting proposals, and big shout out to BZ for bringing a ton of value to the table for us 3 minutes live. Big shout out to everybody who's watching outside of Discord and beyond. We appreciate it. We're excited to build the future of money with you.
And thanks, Ari, for leading the meeting.
Yep. So we'll see you next time, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Ari.
No problem.
Bye, y'all.
Before you just switch the video off because you're like, oh, I don't want to hear about pet battles, 3,000 gold. With the pre-patch only